Hello and welcome to the LAUNCHPAD. My name's Nick Bradshaw. I'm from the World Innovation Summit for Health, which is the younger sister of the World Innovation Summit for Education. Delighted to be here and welcome you today. So the LAUNCHPAD is a space where speakers present and discuss recent and cutting-edge research findings in education, as well as new educational projects to spark new ideas among the audience. During the session, speakers share their views and insights in a supportive environment. Each presentation is developed in an engaging way, I'm sure, and with the idea of sharing new thoughts and perspectives with us. Each speaker speaks for just 7 minutes, and we will then have 2 minutes, just 2 minutes for Q&A after that, for questions, which probably means one question, maybe two, but when you are asking questions, please ask a question. We won't have time for you to talk about your own projects. You need to directly ask a question of the speaker. Now, to note that there may be a disruption in the lighting around us due to a high-level guest visit to the Majlis. Note that we will continue with the presentation even if this happens. So just be aware there may be a lot of disruption around us, but we are going to carry on. And so, we'd like to begin with a presentation by Kylie Adolf, the Vice President for Partnerships at Project Lead, who will present on the transportable skills we need to be focusing on in education. So, Kylie.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay? Perfect. Fantastic. As Nick mentioned, I'll be talking about the power of transportable skills. So as the theme of the summit suggests, the accelerated pace of change impacts the relevance and validity of learning. We can no longer rely on a fixed stock of knowledge. As our development evolves, we must provide opportunities to continuously cultivate skills, skills that are applicable for the duration of one's experience. And we know that education plays a vital role in developing skills. According to the OECD, education is defined as organized and sustained communication designed to bring about learning. It goes on to further say that sustained includes continuity and duration. As I was reflecting on my experience as an educator, and I had to truly ask myself and others, how often in education are we focused on duration and continuity? Was I providing opportunities for learning that would last, that would span time and place? Or was I empowering them to develop skills that would serve them as humans, not just students? Was I simply trying to meet the benchmarks for that day, for that lesson, or just that moment? The notions of continuity and duration at times are not evident in how we teach and in turn how we assess learning in our students. It often seems that we are pinning the short term and the long term against one another in K-12 education. Far too often in K-12 education, particularly in the United States, we are thinking, planning, executing, and assessing in and for the short term. We can think of the short term as the content specific to that subject or that particular moment. The long term then are the skills, the constructs, regardless of subject, place, and time. They are the mechanisms of continuity and are of incessant value. And these skills are applicable, so they move beyond any particular subject. And these are truly the elements of duration and continuity. And these skills are transportable. These skills include problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and ethical reasoning. We need to plan, teach, and assess for the long term. We need to create opportunities for students around the world to develop skills, to work and learn with others who are progressively more different, whether that be linguistically, religiously, racially, or culturally. They are unique in their perspectives and experiences. So these transportable skills are critical for success today and in the future. So if we're truly exploring this breadth of skills, not just for today, but in the future, we must also constantly reevaluate what we teach and in turn what students learn. We must also reevaluate and prioritize how we measure learning and progress toward acquiring such skills. So we constantly ask the question of ourselves, how do we, not just in the education community, respond to the vital need for students to develop these transportable skills? First and foremost, we have to stop operating in the short term in education. We also have to stop operating in isolation. We have to start building communities of stakeholders. That's K-12 educators, higher education, and community. We also have to think about this from a student's perspective. For students, they must begin mastering transportable skills at an early age. They must also think about ways to demonstrate that proficiency. Higher education institutions must support students' development. Employers must partner with educators and other stakeholders to really build that pipeline of students and future workers with these skills. Recently, our organization, Project Lead the Way, decided to address the teaching and assessing of skills in education. Specifically, our organization decided to tackle the issue of the lack of assessments, particularly in high school, that measure skills like problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and ethical reasoning. We understood that change was necessary in how we assess our students, not only in how we teach our students, but how we assess our students. We also understood the value or the currency for students in providing evidence of strong transportable skills, both to higher education institutions along with future employers. So we developed assessments in partnership with industry experts along with higher education representatives. Here's an example of one of our test items. So the end-of-course assessments are unique in really how they incorporate the measurement of those skills. So students often in these assessments are looking at how they can communicate information, how they can develop creative solutions, or demonstrate ethical reasoning. Examples of specific transportable skills assessed include creativity, critical and creative thinking through handling unexpected challenges and otherwise well-planned situations. It also includes things like patient privacy rights in our biomedical courses, distributing data, creative solutions to obstacles in research, meeting deadlines, identifying team members, and effective collaboration. So we're seeing high school students demonstrate proficiency in these transportable skills. So these creative, critical, and social competencies that are being measured have distinct qualities. They are useful in many fields. So oftentimes we think about, are they useful in different fields? So this is a little bit of research that we did in partnership with an organization called Burning Glass in the United States. So they're useful in many fields. They're effective within constantly changing workplaces and industries and are of great value to both individuals and organizations. They are transportable across transition in roles, responsibilities, companies, sectors, and careers. And we also see, if we look at this set of data, that the demand for transportable skills outpaces all other skills and spans a diverse range of careers and industries. We also know that transportable skills are valued at every stage of career. They're critical to career entry, career advancement, and future-proofing. So we all know that our world is changing rapidly. As we've seen from this summit, this accelerated rate of change impacts the relevance and the validity of what we think we know, along with the skills that we possess. And I really love this quote. In age, we've been talking a lot about automation and AI at this summit. And this quote says, in an age when worker retention is threatened by automation, transportable skills can mean the difference between advancement and displacement. So increasing the emphasis on transportable skills will require a mind shift for many in education, as we've seen from many conversations here in this summit. So really thoughtfully integrating these skills into curriculum assessment will really necessitate close collaboration of those stakeholders that I mentioned earlier. This refocus on transportable skills among students and institutions that serve them will really lay the foundation for workforce. And we must teach and assess these skills in our K-12 systems. And these skills are essential to the success of individuals and teams, employers and industries, and even entire economies. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. So we have a moment for a question or two. You may have got off easy there. You might be okay. So, no, there's one there. Please.
Thank you. Wondering about, you spoke to assessments on future skills, transportable skills. I'm curious about the assessment solutions you've developed. Are these available for use by other organizations?
Not yet. So we actually just piloted this this year And then we've provided access to schools who are currently implementing our engineering, computer science, and biomedical science programs. And the thought is we're working with a variety of higher education institutions to kind of become that benchmark, particularly in the United States, of looking at how we measure transportable skills at the high school level particularly. And then the hope is to kind of take that to scale and make that widely available, because we know that's a huge need in the market. So great question.
Hello. As a student, I'm wondering. I'm wondering, the students that have taken these assessments, how have they received them, and what is their feedback on it?
That's a great question. You know what's interesting is it's provided a lot of, many students are uncomfortable. And there's been it's interesting because it was an unintended consequence, right? So we think we're doing the right thing in trying to measure these skills, but they were so used to the standardized assessment that's been used in schools for years that there was a huge level of discomfort that they had to work through. So that was really interesting, and just looking at it from a process perspective, and that this is just a total mind shift for them as well. I mean, they had the content knowledge, right, and they had the skills, but we for so long in education teach children how to do school. So then when we change that process, it becomes really challenging. So that's a great question.
Thank you so much,
Of
Kylie.
course.
That really is it. And thank you for, I'm really sorry, we're on 2 minutes per session, but hopefully you have some more questions for later. Thank you, Kylie. To speed things on, I'm now going to invite Alejandro Roldan, the Organizational Innovation Professional at Ruta N in Medellin, who will present on your Education Innovation Lab. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. I'm Alejandro Roldan, psychologist, and I want to share with you a small story about transformation. I'm so proud to talk about not just about the corporation or institution, but the whole city. I will talk about this question. We have this question constantly in our mind. Have you ever wondered what you need to transform yourself? What the clue? What is the thing that you could change to improve yourself? This is something that we have every time in our minds, because we had this really dark time in our story. So I will share with you like a fairy tale story, starting like a once upon a time. Okay? Once upon a time in a territory with a lot of things against it. A lot of things. We have this dark time in 90s mostly, but in 2002 también. So Medellin, Colombia is the second largest city of our country. We have this kind of recipe for failure in an industrial economy, because we don't have piers or harbors or superhighways or natural resources like silver or gold or oil. We are not the capital of the country. And on the top of that, we was the world's most violent city. So we decided to create a science, technology, and innovation policy. But why? Because we understood that we need to change to connect from this industrial economy to a knowledge economy. So we start working in infrastructure, connecting isolated neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, with new opportunities, with downtown, with different opportunities. And we understood that stimulated innovation, and based on knowledge economy, when you talk about knowledge economy, you're talking about talent. So we understood that with talent and knowledge economy, we could have better incomes, more jobs, and obviously quality of life. So the challenge is the talent. But when you talk about talent, you're talking about education. So we realized and we understood that we need to hack the system. This is our word. We need to hack the system because at least in Colombia, we have this gap between the educational system and the demand of the fourth industrial revolution demand. So big gap. So we understood that we need some skills to hack the system. And we believe in this school like a talent quarry. It's the place that you can find the brightest minds, the brightest ideas, but you need a different kind of approach. An education relevant and enjoyable, and obviously that discovers and develop talent, and also create opportunities not just for the students but also for families and community. But we understood that the rock stars of this story are the teachers. We treat them like that, like rock stars, because they are really important for us. And we involve them in this kind of agile methodologies from software development. We inspired the teachers in methodology, changing their mindset. So we have been working with a community of teachers. In this Rogers curve, you can find the way that you can switch from push strategy to pull strategy, working not with the whole group of teachers, but with the 80.5% to switch the situation. So we give them three things. The first one, a safe space, because when you're changing, you have this fear to change. We have a lot of things to think. And obviously, you have the role of a teacher, and you need to encounter different other teachers to exchange ideas. So this emotional safe place was the Lab of Innovation in Education, a place to work. To work in what? In mindset. We focus in mindset, talking about abundance thinking. We believe that when you change from a problem approach to a challenge approach, just switching the word, you can change even your perspective of life. So we work hard with them in abundance thinking. So also we inspire in user-centered design, because we believe that if you change from a teach approach to a learn approach, from teacher approach to a student approach, you can understand better what the students need. And obviously we empower them with a lot of resources and new methodologies. And also we have this structure. We have the time box, 12 weeks. We have 2 cohorts working with those teachers, 12 weeks from cycles, prototyping and validating each one of the concepts. Different projects, different ideas, but with the same time box. Outcomes. We had more than 20 schools, 99 teachers in that community. We had impact in more than 5,000 students with those teachers and family and community. And also we connect edtech corporations, startups. We realized that the entrepreneurs in education are really important in this quality change of education, because if you involve them, you could prototype real solutions for real schools. I love this drawing because you can find here from the teacher approach, as a social entrepreneur, prototyping, validating, and in the third cycle, in the third sprint, we connect with the startups in education in order to have new products and services, platforms, different experiences. And why? Because we want to have 4 drivers: talent, transformation, obviously, quality of education, but also economic development. So we connect, we are the articulators, the linkers between those stakeholders. So we want to be the EdTech hub, city hub for Latin America and the world. And this is an invitation for you. We want to work with a global network, working in EdTech City Hub. So join us. Let's make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alejandro. And I'm going to jump straight in and see questions from the audience. Quite a lot to take in there. If there are no questions, I think you may. I mean, it was a great presentation and gave a lot of information there. So,
I think enough information.
But please do talk to people afterwards if you want to have that one-on-one conversation, which people often do. So thank you very much. Thank you, Alejandro. Okay, up next is Fadi Maki, who is the head of B4 development, who's now going to present on how a video game is actually helping to prevent violent extremism. So, Fadi, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm Fadi Maki, and I will be talking about this new online game which created it based on behavioral insights that could help in preventing violent extremism. So let me start by asking if any one of you has taken their flu shot this season. Right? You did? Okay. So we know how the biological vaccine works, right? So we have basically an injection that contains a weakened dose of a virus, which confers resistance against future infection. Now, the concept of psychological vaccine works in a similar way. However, instead of a virus, what it does is expose individual to a weakened version of the counter argument and basically helps refute it afterwards. So research on inoculation theory was pioneered in the 60s by Maguire. And recently, more researchers started working on this theory with more controversial issues where people are likely to hold very different views and very polarized kind of beliefs, such as climate change, such as 9/11 conspiracy theories, biotechnology, fake news, and so on. So for instance, in the context of climate change, Sander van der Linden, who's a Cambridge professor, together with other researchers, found that briefly introducing people to a distortion tactic used by certain groups can act like a vaccination, like a psychological vaccine. And as such prevents canceling out correct information even after exposure to subsequent fake news. So building on his work on climate change, he developed with another researcher, John Rosenbeek, a game called Get Bad News, working on inoculation theory. And as such vaccinates social media users against fake news, and by putting actually the player in the role of a fake news villain who uses social media tactics to spread fake news. So far, more than 950,000 people played the game, but the existing results that we have are only for 15,000, and the results were very promising. So the results are an ability to spot fake news tactics improved basically after playing the game. So we at B for Development, which we were called formerly Qatar Behavioral Insights Unit, created by the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, have been working on behavioral science to test weight using several experimentation methods. So what we've done basically is two things. First, translated the fake news game into Arabic, but we haven't put it online, so we'll be using it more in controlled setting. And the second thing, we developed a scenario with the two Cambridge professors, basically that uses another game, very similar, but for the prevention of violent extremism, where basically the game vaccinates social media users against recruitment tactics, okay? And basically we put the player in the role of a chief recruitment officer in a fictitious extremist organization. So the game has been tested recently in a randomized controlled trial with 291 participants divided into treatment group playing the radicalized game, as we called it, and a control group playing a normal Tetris game. And the recent kind of RCT was part of Nabil Saleh's thesis at LSE, who is also senior fellow at B for Development and VP of Nudge Lebanon. So to measure the effects of the game, we showed participants basically 6 manipulative posts, basically six manipulative WhatsApp posts that represent manipulation strategies used typically by radical groups, and asked them to rate their manipulativeness on a 7-point Likert scale, before and after playing the game, both control and treatment. Initial results suggest that after playing the game, the treatment group were better at assessing manipulativeness of WhatsApp messages. Also, we showed them vignettes of both vulnerable and non-vulnerable groups in the form of fake profiles. And we asked them to assess vulnerability before and after playing. Also, results showed that treatment groups were better at identifying vulnerability. We did two more things. One is used a oneness test, which is a tool borrowed from social psychology to measure closeness of social relationships. very simply, basically, we ask players how connected they feel to specific individuals and entities. And they had to select one of 7 pairs of increasingly overlapping circles. So individuals that played the radicalized game exhibited higher level of oneness with police, with family, with media and neighbors, and basically compared to the control group, with little to no effect on government, school, friends, and strangers. An additional analysis was done using the IBM Watson tone analysis. It's still ongoing, the analysis, but preliminary results suggest a correlation between playing the radicalized game and being more analytical. So where do we go from here? The pilot was initially done in the UK, but now we're trying to scale it up around the world. And we're looking for more long-term impact. And we're discussing, particularly within the Supreme Committee and the Generation Amazing team, how we could use that as part of the Football for Development program in developing countries and in conflict zone for at-risk youth. More importantly, from behavioral science, we know people have bounded rationality. So telling them about kind of the misinformation is not enough. So we think the game is informed from insights from behavioral science, and as such has the potential to act like a special type of educative nudges, like Sunstein and other calls boost. And from that, we can draw on a number of interesting parallels to the process of unlearning and relearning as the radicalized game could be used to facilitate that process and allow the individuals to develop the right set of decision-making competencies in the face of malicious radicalist recruitment tactics in a scalable and in a scientifically measurable way. Thank you very much. We look forward to sharing more results with you.
Thank you, Fadi. And if you want to put your headphones in, if there are any questions from the audience. I think for each of these, there's quite a lot to take in for people. Oh, there's a question at the back there. So we've got one question.
Thank you. It's a very amazing and very nice behavioral research you are doing. I just want a question for you. If anything, every person have a different face and different personality. And the problem of this era is to finding the real person for real job. And unfortunately, the industry and even our school and education is facing the real person for real work. And students are facing also real career path. Do you have any mechanism? There are so many mechanisms is working, but not absolutely working. So just wanna give you any in the psychological analysis you have any idea and any research. Thank you.
This work could be used for vulnerable group. That's the idea. Students, people that are at risk, and the idea of playing the game will hopefully give them some inoculation to identify and spot early on any manipulation tactics by recruiters at the various stages. So that's what we're trying to do. We're hoping to join the debate of using behavioral insights and behavioral science into kind of giving that inoculation to several kind of people and groups within the vulnerable communities.
Thank you. Fadi, thank you very much for that. And so we move straight into the next presentation. Up next, we have a presentation from Alexandra Mitsotaki. Sorry, I'm going to get this wrong. Mitsotaki. It's so straightforward, and yet the president and co-founder of the World Human Forum, who is going to present on the Delphic Cube. So, Alexandra, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I will also tell you a story about some engaged citizens who, less than 3 years ago, decided to meet in a place up in the mountains of Greece. This is the place where we met less than 3 years ago. We were 120 of us because we had a very simple idea. We felt that we all needed collectively a new point of global reference. And that point, we felt, should be called the World Human Forum. Human, yes, because we felt that an economic forum like in Davos could not be anymore our place, our point of reference, because why should the humans be just defined through their economy? We felt we should be human back in the center of the conversation. So what we did was we called the group together and we felt, okay, let's think, let's imagine and build the World Human Forum. 3 years later, we are here with you to share some of our conclusions, and particularly one methodological tool that we have developed, and that is the Delphic Cube. This Delphic Cube looks very, very much like a Rubik's Cube. But let me tell you something. It's not a Rubik's Cube, simply because we believe that the Rubik's Cube has got it all wrong. The Rubik's Cube tells us we win if we separate the colors, if we separate the sides. We believe we're going to win only if we connect the dots, if we break the silos, if we connect everything. So what are the sides of our cube? This cube, by the way, was presented at the Athens Democracy Forum organized by the New York Times a couple of weeks ago. Again, our cube traveled to a sustainability forum organized by the Economist. Today, I'm here to speak at a conference on education. Why is that? Because one part of our cube starts saying what we need is remember sustainability as the thing we have to aim for. Sustainability, some people are calling it regeneration, is important because unless we respect the boundaries of our planet, nothing will be happening in the future for humanity. So sustainability is very important. And in order to get there, we must immediately move to the second side of our cube, which is the side about what political system do we need in order to achieve that. And there we believe we need participation, inclusiveness, responsibility of all the citizens. That, of course, means democracy, particularly when I come from Greece. But we need to rethink democracy. We need to build on democracy to understand that it's not enough to vote for governments. It's much more important to take our part of responsibility. The third side of our cube is what you are here all for. It's about education. Because what type of education does it take to create a society where citizens can take their responsibility, be empowered, and go ahead to find solutions for the sustainability agenda? It takes, of course, the type of education you talk about here. And then the fourth side of our cube, which is particularly important for us, is what we call inner personal development. Because this is what it is all about when we talk, what does it mean to be human? What is driving us? What is the purpose of all this? What makes us happy? What makes us feel that we care, that we want to reach out to others, that we want to make the world a better place? This is our own personal journey, inner personal journey. In the end, the world is only becoming a better place if each and everyone becomes a little bit a better person. So this fourth side is particularly important for us. And of course, it includes spirituality and all the things that usually we find in philosophers and knowledge of the past also. But you will tell me a cube has 6 sides, so 2 are missing. Now, the 2 are missing are amazing facilitators for all of this. One of them is technology and innovation. But technology and innovation, again, at the service of the humans, not for its own sake. Technology and innovation has to meet human needs, and it can do it. We know it. But it needs to meet the other AI. The obvious AI for all of us today has become artificial intelligence. But there is another AI that we tend to forget, and that other AI is our ancestral intelligence. The ancestral intelligence, the intelligence of our ancestors, is all the knowledge that humanity has accumulated. So this is important. And the 6th side, last but not least, it's about art. Yes, art, music, poetry, theater, literature is an amazing social change maker. And we must integrate the artists in our efforts to make the world a better place. We must go out and talk to people where they go, where they gather, in music festivals and in places where we usually don't speak. To do what in the end? To make the world a better place. And what does that mean? It means, in fact, just remembering that we have an agenda for the planet. We have the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm not going to ask you if you know what they are, but I can tell you that every time I ask a random audience if they know what the SDGs are, the answer is no. So how can we reach this new ecological civilization without even knowing that we have an agenda? And we have an agenda for which we are all responsible. Because right now, as I talk, this is what is happening. The solutions are coming from the grassroots. Men and women in slums in Asia, in villages in Africa, in big cities, in Silicon Valley, are worried, are thinking, are creating, are wonderfully coming up with amazing new solutions, innovative projects, and wonderful hope. And this kind of hope we need to share. And for that, we need to acknowledge those people, and we need to inspire others to do the same thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. I'll let you put the buds back in. Do we have any questions from the floor? And yes, over here, please.
Thank you very much. I feel like I really want to bring the student perspective in this again. And I wanted to ask, how do you feel the aspect of the Delphic Cube and or the Sustainable Development Goals can be more implemented and advocated in schools in order to teach students?
Well, thank you for the question. Actually, we are initiating now a pilot in Greece. We're going to work with a public school, multicultural, where refugee kids are also there. What we do is we bring the cube to the school. We explain in 6 sessions each side of the cube. And we let the students and the children decide what are the words, let's say, that define education or that define democracy. And the very interesting thing is that what they will probably come up with are words like imagination, creativity, participation, and you will immediately see, and they will see, that those words could come in many sides of the cube, probably in most of them. And this exercise, we believe, is very useful, and we are actually also engaging with a very different kind of school. Tomorrow I will be in the UK, and I'm speaking at Eton, the famous boarding school, and I've been invited by the students there to present the cube and to see if we can interact between Eton and public schools in Greece. And hopefully, for those of you who are in the education field and who are interested, please join us, and maybe we can test this, because this is really the very first days of the Delphic Cube.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. These really are quick sessions, I appreciate. So I'm now going to invite our penultimate speaker, Mr. Gerd Graus, who is the global, let's get this right, the Global Director of Education at Kidzania, who is going to talk to us about the vital importance of play in education. So please, I hand over to you.
Assalamu alaikum. That should work. I just wanted to throw a few phrases in to begin with, and then we'll just do a little bit of exploring. And it's about a little bit more than play, I guess. I wanted to highlight that children can only aspire to what they know exists, that we lack purpose and why answers, that the environment is the third teacher, and that experience is everything, and not all classrooms have 4 walls. We lack purpose. Whenever I travel the world, and I'm very fortunate to do so, I ask lots of children, why do you go to school? And the answer I get from almost all the children is either because I have to or because you make me. Little children and big children. And I don't think that answer is good enough. Because if I've got to spend 10, 12, 13, 14 years going somewhere because you make me, No chance. I'm certainly not going to enjoy it. So I think we need to rethink, we need to be brave, and we need to distinguish very clearly now between schooling and education. Schooling is essentially the government agenda, which we call the national curriculum, which schools are expected to deliver, and schools are inspected and children are tested to see how well the schools deliver the government agenda. You could have a conversation about schooling without mentioning the word child once. Perhaps that is why they don't understand the purpose of going there. So my point is, as education director globally for Kidzania, is can we connect schooling, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 9 to 4, with education from the second I'm born to the second I pass on. We have the other obsession that gets in the way, of course, is the obsession with health and safety and risk averseness. It's something that completely doesn't help within that scenario, and we are about to create a world that is lacking adventure and a world that is lacking entrepreneurship because we are so risk averse. And believe me, within that schooling context, you can't timetable character building. Yeah? What are we going to do? Thursday, lesson 4, resilience, page 48? I don't think so. I think that is the bit where experience is everything will come in to help us. In all of this, teachers, and all of us are teachers, are facilitators, enablers, and connectors of schooling and education. Children need to be able to write their own narrative of the possible, to join their own dots, and we need to connect out of school and in school for that to happen. And sometimes they will fall over and they'll need to learn how to get up and not to fall over again. We also need to do this at an early stage. So at Kidzania, we build cities for children, where children at 4 to 14 can engage with the world of work. They can fly aeroplanes, they can do all sorts, most importantly, without the interference of grown-ups. So it is independent. We do global research with the Higher School of Economics in Moscow, for example, and we analyze children's behavior. The Higher School of Economics in Moscow specialize in how can entertainment data help us understand children better so that we can influence how we should educate children better. So I'll give you some very quick headlines. All stereotypes are set at the age of 4. There's almost no change between 4 and 14. Almost all girls globally, regardless of their background, choose activities below their age range, and children can only aspire to what they know exists, which of course refers to a socioeconomic context. We need to realize that technology is not the answer, but has its place in this. Its very important place. We need to return to the values of, for example, Reggio Emilia, who we work with very closely, to focus on the child and the individual child's learning. The relearning needs to be done first and foremost by us as adults so that we can position ourselves better in how we engage with the children. Here's a task for you. What 10 experiences should all 11-year-old children have had outside of school? Now, on my list is teamwork, is winning, losing, is success, is social media, whatever. Make your own list. Let's see whether we can come to a consensus what it's all about. We did a survey of 900 companies and asked one question. When you interview a 16-year-old, what are you looking for? School subjects did not feature in the answers. They were part of the answers, they enabled the answers. So we need to think broadly. Children can only aspire to what they know exists. And it is our duty, first and foremost, to twitch curtains, to open windows, and to open doors, and to let the kids find their own ways. They have to aspire to their own dreams and not to the ones that we put in front of them because of academic programs. Thank you very much. I've never been on time before.
Thank you, Gary. We really appreciate that. But it does mean we have time for a question or two. do we have one there at the back of the... There we are.
I just wanted to comment and give a quick question. My little sisters have played in Kidzania and they've really loved it. In different parts of the world, they've seen it in Turkey and they've seen it here. And I wanted to thank you for the work that you do, because it does, especially for young women, give them the idea that you can achieve all these amazing things and you do have all these awesome opportunities. But I had a question on more developing countries. Are there plans to incorporate Kidzanias around in places like that, or something similar, maybe a little smaller in countries that are a little less developed, I would say?
Thank you. The answer is yes and yes. So there are smaller versions. The one in Doha, for example, is smaller than the one in Istanbul. And we are developing in other countries. I think what's incredibly important to highlight, that it is my job to make sure that Kidzania is not the playground of the middle classes. So in partnership with our industry partners, for example, last year in Mumbai, we took 115,000 children from the slums to come to Kidzania. We work with the Ayrton Senna Institute in Sao Paulo to bring girls from the favelas into Kidzania. And we try to position ourselves very strongly, particularly on the gender issues. So we have a policy now, a global HR policy, where every activity is almost staffed anti-stereotype. We probably, across Kidzania, have more female pilots than the whole of British Airways, right? So that's where we want to be.
One more down here.
Yeah, I just want to add that I'm from the Philippines, and we do have Kidzania in the Philippines. And we're bringing a lot of public school children there to be much more exposed to different careers, and they love them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, it's my privilege. I just wanted to add something, just a thought for you, right? Our research, now my wife's school in the United Kingdom is in one of the poorest parts of the United Kingdom. That school has been to Kidzania 20 times. Never on any of the 20 visits has any of the children chosen the aeroplane, the operating theatre, or the television studio as their first choice. They choose the supermarket, the courier, and making beds in the hotel. Children go with what they know. And that's what I mean when I say it is up to us to offer the experiences to create level playing fields and create a fairer world.
Great points. A great point to end on there. Thank you, Gare. Really appreciate that. And so we come to the final short talk, presentation, quite rapid fire slideshow, I expect, from Stephen Ritz, who is author, educator, urban farmer. And he's going to discuss how his organization, Green Bronx, is redefining how children learn in urban settings. So over to you.
Okay. I'm going to try and move really quickly. So I'm going to skip through this and just say, oops, we're having some remote problems. If you could just hold the computer up, perhaps. Or I'll just come back here and I'll come back here and run the presentation from here. So just hand me the computer and I'll go. No, it's not. It should be this one. It should be this one. So for whatever reason. It's okay. So hello. Oh, because you have it on. I got you. Can I'll just stay here and do the presentation from here. Can you just turn it this way, please? So no need to watch me. You can simply watch the screen, and I'll just do it from right here. Allow me. So hello, Doha. Absolutely the commitment of a lifetime, and we are obviously the gatekeepers of equity and opportunity. The problems we solve will help heal and save the world. And as a farmer, we have seen transitions from traditional farming to some of the urban work that I do to 21st century farming that looks like this. And I like to say in the South Bronx, we are putting the culture back into agriculture. These are pictures of my kids, and mindful that we live in a world of abundance. I want every child in every neighborhood to have access to perfect, healthy, fresh food. It's It's said that I have the world's biggest shovel, so let's dig in. For those of you who don't know, I come from the poorest congressional district in America. Much like our Colombian friend before, his Moravia is my South Bronx, the poorest congressional district in America. In addition, we have some tremendous environmental racism problems that look like this. And while these are some of the images that my children see walking daily to school, I'm a parent, I'm a resident, I'm a teacher, and in my 40 years of teaching, I'm seeing children getting sicker, fatter, and more diseased. To think that 75% of the children I see labeled learning disabled would not be if they had access to good prenatal nutrition is mind-numbing. And moreover, to think that puberty is now starting year after year at a younger age because of the food we eat is wholly unacceptable. The realities of my community are right there. We have some of the most disturbing social determinants of health in all of America. And remarkably, what I like to do with students, to think that this is a cradle from the United States on a home visit, to me is unacceptable. This is what my children see going to school. This is what my environment looks like. This is the supermarket that serves 45,000 local residents in my community. And more we're seeing food that looks like this. So I'm not willing to accept the things I can't change. I'm going to change what I can't accept. And it all starts with seeds. And for me, my children are my seeds. And I do this radical thing in school. I grow plants. So much so that we've torn up blacktop to build farms across New York City. And when I learned that I could put plants on walls, it was game-changing. So I gave birth to the first edible classroom in a community that has limited means and limited access to healthy, fresh food. This is our harvest. And not only is this a ticket to good health, it's a license to print money. And that's exactly what my students do. We started becoming advocates for our own community, writing grants, breaking ground, and taking one of the ugliest blocks of America and turning it from this into something that looks like advocating for this, breaking ground, and building, and this is the new South Bronx 2 years later. And where there were no businesses, there's now business after business. We started looking up and around and realized that we could take roofs and turn them from this into this. And really, for me, children will never be well read if they're not well fed. So giving children access to healthy, fresh food in school is absolutely critical. And it's been game changing in the results that we've seen. To be able to send children home with groceries week after week and look at using trash and upcycle and resourcing to generate food paradigms is awesome. So I don't expect every child to be a farmer, but I do expect them to read about it, write about it, and blog about it. And we've moved 40% attendance to 93% daily attendance. We've had year after year of 100% graduation rate, and in a community with 25% unemployment, we've generated 2,200 local jobs. Most importantly, my favorite crop is local citizens, graduates, members of the middle class, kids who are going to college in a community that's cleaner than it's ever been. We take lots that look like this, convert them to this, which is living wage jobs and property value. So I have a lot of energy. I hope you plug in. I want to show you 5 days in the life of a seed. I'll show you 5 days in the life of my students. We show up, we measure, we grow. We like to say we're Bronx proud and farming, and you know it. That's my contact information. I'll go back in case you want to take a quick slide. But, you know, to think I've had a TED Talk that's taken me around the world. My students and I take buildings that look like this and convert them into that. And for me, it's just easier to raise healthy children than fix broken men. I call my story From Hope to the Pope, and I was honored to meet him. I wrote a book that went on to fund some of the work that I do, and that's when I decided to take over the worst school in all of New York City, and believing the problem is the solution to change the way we eat, live, and learn, and converted classrooms that looked like that, envisioned them to this. The children believed in me, I believed in them, and we are generating 45% annual increase year after year on state tests. Failing schools are now proficient and well-developed in all areas. My students and I made the cover of Time magazine for kids. But most importantly, in a community that's lacking food, we're sending 100 bags of groceries home each and every week using technology that looks like this, growing food indoors. We are aligning it because for me, zip code and skin color should not determine outcomes in life. We've created a curriculum which is over 400 pages, which aligns the art and science of growing vegetables to every single subject area and content area. It comes complete with a website, Common Core, Next Generation Science Standard, is literally taking over all around the world. I've worked with teachers around the world to build sustainable gardens. We're taking over empty buildings and converting them into freestanding entities that are generating jobs, food, and amazing opportunities for children and communities all around the world. So that's 21st century technology in the work that I do. I believe this kind of thinking is going to change the world. Recently, I was on the Today Show showing how you could eat your way into good health. This is a picture of my classroom. This is 25 days in the South Bronx. This is not Photoshop, ladies and gentlemen, so get ready. This is 24 days in the South Bronx using 90% less water, 90% less space, and generating jobs. They say money doesn't grow on trees, but that's whole food on top of your rooftop. So those those are my beautiful students with beautiful food. This is our workforce development program. And to think that this is some of the work that we can do with children to change the way we eat, live, and learn in America means together we can all prosper. To think that my students and I have mastered technology that's net positive on food and energy and has attracted the likes of President Clinton and has gotten me to meet him. Even Oprah is mind-numbing. But my life is impossible to I'm possible because 7 years ago, that big heavy-set guy was me. I was a diabetic, over 300 pounds, and I went to become a champion of change, got my students invited to the Obama White House. Let me just stress the Obama White House, and I'll leave it at that. And to think that the president could cite our work from children in the most marginalized community in America and invite us down there is absolutely mind-numbing. So where did I go next? Well, my next big project was actually working on the sustainable city and actually having net positive schools, net positive communities that generate their own energy, recycle all their own water, grow all their own food, and do it at a 3-degree minimum around the desert. We grow 1 million plants a month, which is really rather remarkable. Last year, I was fortunate enough to meet Her Excellency, and she came to visit us in New York along with her daughter, and we started making some connections. And this is where it really gets interesting when you talk about a global model, because I'm thrilled to be partnering with Cutter Foundation and QFI to really do some amazing work. And in a tweet that was heard around the world, a year later, there I was outside, bringing the technology that we use in the Bronx right here to the mall to expose children to growing food. Literally, our executive director, Maggie Mitchell-Salem, not only does she speak Arabic and love food, but there she is on Park Avenue eating our food. We took our curriculum, turned it into Arabic, and now we are having connected classrooms all around the world with project-based learning. I will share with you, this is not Palestine, this is not Doha, this is New York City, so this is
hard to believe it's Brooklyn because literally you might think you're in the Gulf. But check it out, it is 100% dual language classroom.
Education, those they're having lots of they involved. That's some of the children's work. We've connected with classrooms here in Doha. Every other children wear cheese hats. We connect with children around the world. But when children learn they can grow things and create things and make things, they get absolutely inspired. And to think that, you know, we are in a community that has no water, a tremendous food insecurity problem, and a lot of obesity is mind-numbing. And this is right here in Qatar, growing food. This is the work that we do. I'm so proud to be a part of it. So some people think I have my head in the sand, but I like to say I always have my thinking cap on, and together we are literally growing something greater. So that's the work that I do. I'll skip this, which as our gentleman said before me, technology is not going to save the world. People are. So I'm so proud to be a part of it, and I tell the children, don't wait for the future, build it. I come from a place where we have everything to gain and nothing to lose, and I'm so thrilled to share that because my goal is to make sure that in a world of inequality, every child has an equal seat at the table, and in a world where big fish eat little fish, I want the big fish to outswim the little fish. So every day I believe there's good in the world, and I start from a place of truth, keep it good, keep it just and well-ordered, make it beautiful, make it prosperous, make it sustainable, and begin all over again, and that's why I'm so honored to be here at WISE. So I urge all of you to think boundlessly, work purposely, live passionately, and make epic happen, because everyone has the power for greatness, because greatness is determined by service. So let's get out there and change the world. There are people who say, why? I say, why not? And my students and I have gone from this to this, from this to this, from this to this, from this to that, and from this to this, and it's a model that can really help heal and grow the world. So my name is Steve Ritz. I'm a farmer. No matter where you go on earth, remember, deep inside, like we've heard all day, is the magic word art, and without art, the earth would just be and nobody likes and how we walk with the wounded speaks far louder than how we sit with the great. So get out there, make epic happen. My name's Steve Ritz. I grow vegetables. My vegetables grow schools. My schools grow communities, and we make epic happen. And if you're like me, you love... My name is Steve Ritz. I wear a cheese hat. I'm a parent. I'm a teacher. I'm a farmer. And I'm filled with passion, purpose, and hope. And I thank you for your time today. Thank you, and God bless you. Woo. Who needs technology? No need for technology.
And no need for me either. I think Stephen can come for the front and take his own. Now, everyone's got to remember that and repeat it all back now. I hope that's okay.
The homework is to write everything you heard and send it in. The report's due tomorrow.
Okay. So
I don't have... You'll tell me the question.
I'll tell you what they're saying, yes. So do we have questions? Has anybody absorbed what was just said to them? Is it still making its way through 300-something slides?
About 360, and I skipped the videos.
Slides. And you're about to get an earpiece.
Okay.
So any questions? Really, here's a question. And make sure it's a question and not a statement.
Just a question, just a few. It's amazing how you develop a speed
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
How you develop your speed without any breath?
Listen. I have two speeds. And as educators, I think we all have two speeds: fast and faster. But the speed that we all operate on is the speed of trust. Trust of stakeholders, trust of students, trust of parents, trust of administrations, and trust of the communities that we serve. So go fast, go bold, and don't be afraid to fail.
Another question down here.
I just find that you presented some very, very good projects that happening here in Qatar, and it's first time I hear about them. Will you tell us how to learn about projects you are doing here in Qatar, because I don't get any information here?
So first and foremost, you can go to the Qatar Foundation website. You can go to the QFI website. You can see my wonderful colleague Courtney here, who's from the United States but visiting with us. And you can reach out to us at Green Bronx Machine. That's why I wear the shirt. We have an amazing website, a lot of resources. My goal is to grow something greater. And a little bit of background information: I'm not a farmer. I have no science background, but I was able to work with technology that was able to be unified and connect classrooms around the world. We have a platform on Participate and Connected Learning. So we are literally here connecting classrooms around the world with uniform curriculum, uniform technology, and growing something greater. And when you think about this is the first generation of children who will not outlive their parents simply because of what we are eating. The health costs that are facing this community, in addition to the food insecurity crisis, is mind-numbing. And we have the ability to change all of that right here in the sand, in the desert. And that, to me, is inspiring.
And I saw one more hand up, one more question was over here. Has the hand gone down? There was a question over here somewhere. Or over here. No? No more questions? Are we sure? Final chance.
Remember, you are what you eat.
There we go. So thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you to all the speakers today, cramming everything into 7 minutes. The people, if you want to speak to people one-on-one individually, they're here now. Thank you for attending the LAUNCHPAD. And we don't know what happened with technology, but technology. You got people. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.